You can feel it, can't you? The silence that isn't empty, the pause that presses on your chest at night. When a woman cares deeply but says nothing, the air changes, and your instincts whisper questions you don't know how to ask. I'm speaking to you as a psychologist, and as a woman who understands what hides behind quiet. If this truth matters, take 1 second, subscribe to this channel, and like this video, because what I'm about to reveal will change how you read silence. Here is the first truth men are rarely told. Silence is not absence. When a woman cares but stays silent, she often becomes more controlled, not less. She chooses restraint over confession. You'll notice she measures her words carefully, editing herself in real time, because emotion feels dangerous when it's real. That restraint is not indifference, it is fear. The second sign is subtle emotional mirroring. She reflects your moods without commenting on them. If you're stressed, she grows quieter. If you're calm, she softens. This is unconscious empathy. Her nervous system is tuned to yours, even when her mouth stays closed. Third, she shows up reliably but briefly. She checks in, responds, and makes sure you're okay, yet never lingers long enough to reveal too much. This is emotional self-protection. Caring pulls her toward you. Silence keeps her safe. Fourth, watch how she listens. A woman hiding feelings listens with intensity, remembers small details, and brings them up later without explanation. She won't say she cares, but her memory will expose her. The mind does not store what the heart finds meaningless. Fifth, she avoids defining the relationship, not because she doesn't feel, but because naming it would make the feelings real. Silence becomes a buffer between desire and vulnerability. Sixth, she pulls back right after moments of closeness. When connection peaks, fear follows. The withdrawal isn't punishment, it's regulation. Seventh, her compliments are indirect. She praises your actions, your character, your growth, never your impact on her. She keeps herself out of the equation to avoid revealing attachment. Eighth, she asks about your life more than she shares about hers. Ninth, she supports your independence even when it costs her closeness. And finally, the 10th sign is the hardest to see. She stays silent even when it hurts her. That kind of silence only comes from caring, not too little inside. I want you to understand something uncomfortable. When a woman stays silent while caring, she is fighting herself, not you. Her quiet is an internal negotiation between desire and self-preservation. As a psychologist, I've seen this pattern repeatedly, and once you recognize it, you cannot unsee it. Another sign appears in how she tests the ground emotionally. She might make small, seemingly casual statements and watch your reaction closely, not to manipulate, but to measure safety. Silence often follows these tests because she is gathering data before risking truth. Notice how she becomes hyper-aware of boundaries. She respects yours almost excessively. She won't push, won't demand, won't chase. This restraint is not lack of interest. It's a decision to remain dignified even while emotionally invested. There is also a specific kind of jealousy that shows up without accusation. She won't question you directly, but her energy shifts when other women are mentioned. Her voice tightens slightly. Her responses shorten. This is jealousy filtered through self-control. Pay attention to timing. A woman hiding feelings often reaches out during emotionally significant moments, then retreats again. She senses when you're vulnerable, when you need grounding, and she appears briefly, almost instinctively, then disappears before you can ask why. Another quiet indicator is emotional generosity. She gives advice, encouragement, perspective without claiming space for herself. She invests in your growth while minimizing her presence. Caring, expressed sideways. You may also notice she avoids conflict with you at all costs. Disagreement feels too risky when feelings are hidden. Silence becomes the safer option, even if it means swallowing her needs. Her humor changes around you. It becomes softer, sometimes self-deprecating, sometimes unusually gentle. Humor is often the only place suppressed emotion can breathe. She also notices changes in you before others do. Your tone, your habits, your energy. She asks subtle questions disguised as curiosity. That awareness comes from emotional focus. And here is the truth most men miss. A silent woman who cares is not waiting forever. Silence has an expiration date. Eventually, it turns into distance, not because she stopped feeling, but because carrying unspoken emotion is exhausting. Understanding this gives you power, but also responsibility. If you sense this pattern, don't rush to force confession. Create emotional safety, consistency, and calm leadership. Silence softens where pressure breaks trust. What grows in safety often speaks when it finally feels secure, without fear or regret. I'm going to share something crucial. Silence isn't passive, it's strategic. When a woman is hiding her feelings, it's like she's building an emotional wall brick by brick. Each silence is a protective layer, designed to shield her heart. But here's the thing. The more she cares, the stronger that wall becomes. And the weight of that silence, it often falls on her. Have you ever noticed that when she's not speaking, she might be giving you small, seemingly insignificant signals? A fleeting touch, a glance that lingers just a second too long, a sudden, unguarded smile in a moment of quiet. Those moments are her attempts to connect, to breach the walls she's carefully built. But in that same moment, she pulls back because the risk of being exposed feels too high. The emotional distance she creates isn't meant to hurt you. It's meant to protect herself. If you push too hard, you'll drive her further away, making that silence even more pronounced. The problem is, the more she withholds, the more you feel the emotional void. And that void begins to weigh on you, doesn't it? It makes you wonder, why won't she just open up? What's really going on in her head? What you may not realize is that her silence is often a sign of deep inner conflict. She feels so much for you, but she can't find the words, the courage, or the right moment to share what's inside. And yet, every time you notice her quiet, every time you try to engage her, she may feel like she's losing control over her emotions, like her vulnerability is being forced into the open. She's trying to protect her heart, and in doing so, she's pushing you away. When a woman cares but stays silent, it's an intricate dance between desire and fear. She wants to open up, but the fear of rejection, the fear of appearing too needy, or the fear of being misunderstood keeps her locked in that emotional cage. And yet the truth is, she's more in tune with her feelings than anyone else. Every subtle shift in her tone, her body language, the way she watches you, is a window into her emotional world. She might not speak, but she's always observing. And when she does open up, even a little, pay attention. It's not just words, it's a piece of her soul being shared with you. So the key to unlocking her is not to demand the truth, but to patiently create a space where she feels safe enough to let it flow. You need to understand that her silence doesn't mean indifference. It's a carefully guarded response to the vulnerability she's been hiding. The moment you stop pressuring, the moment you stop assuming the worst, is the moment she may finally find the courage to speak. But this process takes time. It requires trust, patience, and emotional consistency from you. But remember, silence is not always a bad thing. In fact, it can be a sign of respect. She respects the emotional space you both share, and when she's ready to fill it with her truth, you'll know. Until then, let her know through your actions that you're here, that you're listening, that you're willing to wait. She'll hear it, she'll feel it, and when she's ready, she'll speak. There's a harsh truth I need to share with you. The longer a woman hides her feelings, the harder it becomes for her to show them. She becomes more guarded, more calculated, and less likely to open up, even if the feelings grow stronger. What you might see as distance or coldness is actually the accumulation of self-protection. The first thing you have to realize is that silence doesn't mean she's not affected. Quite the opposite. Silence is a reflection of how deeply she cares. Think about it. When we don't care, we don't bother to hide anything. But when emotions are strong, unspoken, and yet not fully addressed, the silence is loaded with meaning. She might not be telling you what she feels because the words haven't formed yet, or she's afraid of them being wrong, so she says nothing. This is a psychological defense mechanism. It's a result of past experiences, of being vulnerable before and either getting hurt or being misunderstood. That's why her silence isn't an absence of feeling. It's the feeling wrapped in fear. Every silence feels like an unspoken promise to herself. If I just stay quiet, I won't be exposed. I won't be hurt. The silence might also be a response to confusion. When she cares but stays silent, part of her feels a sense of uncertainty about how to act. She may not fully understand what she's feeling or how to express it. Her emotions are overwhelming her, but she doesn't know how to channel them. There's a lot of love, but there's also fear of being too vulnerable, of letting someone in too deeply. And this is where the danger lies for you. If you fail to read her cues, if you push too hard for answers or demand that she speak when she's not ready, you risk pushing her further into silence. You risk suffocating what little emotional expression she's willing to give. And once that silence becomes too comfortable, it's hard to break. It will feel like a wall between you, and she'll start to convince herself that silence is easier than risking her feelings. So, how do you respond? Patience. Realizing that the silence isn't a rejection, but a process. You don't need to ask her to speak. Instead, create an environment where silence isn't threatening. Let her know that you're there, that you're not going anywhere. Every time you offer her understanding without demanding anything in return, you chip away at the wall. Be careful with your own reactions. Don't mistake her silence for a lack of interest or affection. Women who care but stay silent often have so much more going on beneath the surface than they show. Your job is to create the emotional safety for her to speak when she's ready, without making her feel like she's being forced into it. Remember, when she's quiet, don't assume the worst. Assume that she is carrying a lot, and she's simply figuring out how to carry it alongside you. She's not leaving you. She's not pulling away. She's just building her emotional strength in silence. Let her take her time, and one day, when she's ready, she'll share everything she's been holding inside. But only if you let her do it in her own time, without pressure, without judgment. There's something you must understand. Her silence is not an invitation for you to guess what's going on. It's not a game. It's her way of asking, "Do you see me?" And the moment you stop trying to break her silence with words, the more you'll begin to understand the depth of what she's really offering you. When a woman cares but stays silent, she's often caught in a dilemma between wanting to protect herself and wanting to connect. And here's the kicker: the more she cares, the less she speaks. It's almost paradoxical, but I've seen it time and time again in my practice. The woman who truly wants to be understood, who yearns to be seen, is the one who most often says nothing. Why? Because vulnerability is terrifying. She's afraid that once she speaks, everything she feels will be exposed. And what if that makes you pull away? What if the truth of her emotions is too much to handle? So instead, she stays silent, trying to control the narrative in her head. She's careful, measured, hoping that through her restraint, she can make sure she doesn't lose control over the emotional landscape she's built. But it's a fragile thing. Silence isn't peace. It's a sign of internal chaos. She's fighting herself, afraid of taking that leap into openness. But at the same time, her heart is longing to be vulnerable with you. The key is that her silence isn't an emotional shutdown. It's a battle between two opposing forces: her desire to connect and her fear of being hurt. This is where the subtle signs come in. Even though she's quiet, she will give you clues. Her silence may not scream at you, but her body language is louder than you realize. Notice her eyes when they catch yours. Notice the small smile that flickers on her lips when she's in your presence. Those are windows into her soul that she's willing to offer you, but only if you're paying attention. You won't hear her voice often, but her gaze, the way she holds herself around you, those are her words. Another thing you'll see is that she takes care of you in ways that are almost invisible. She anticipates your needs before you even ask. It's not out of obligation, it's because she's emotionally invested in your well-being. Her silence becomes her love language. You may never hear her say, "I care," but you'll feel it in the way she supports you quietly, the way she's there when you need her, even if she's not always expressing it in obvious ways. But here's the most important thing I want to tell you. When a woman is silent, she's giving you a test. Not a test of your patience, but of your character. Do you have the emotional intelligence to read her silence? Do you have the maturity to recognize that her quietness doesn't equal disinterest? She is showing you who she is without asking for validation. She's looking for a man who can handle her complexities, who doesn't need her to be constantly open to feel secure. So, the next time you're met with silence, don't rush to fill the space with your words. Instead, listen to the silence. Feel her energy. Understand that silence can be the truest form of communication. If you learn how to read it, you'll learn more about her than you ever could through constant conversation. By now, you should begin to see something crucial about the silence you're experiencing from her. It's not an indication of disinterest. It's a reflection of her emotional depth. Silence doesn't mean she doesn't care. In fact, the opposite is true. Her silence is often a sign that she cares too much, that she's overwhelmed by her own emotions and unsure how to express them without risking too much. When a woman stays silent despite caring deeply, she's often evaluating the emotional risks involved in opening up. You see, there's a quiet fear that hangs over her, a fear that being vulnerable will leave her exposed. And so, she holds back, telling herself that silence is safer. But the truth is, it's never as safe as it seems. Silence creates emotional distance, and over time, the silence builds walls, leaving both of you feeling increasingly isolated. You might be wondering why she doesn't just tell you what's going on in her heart. The answer is simple but painful. She doesn't trust that it's safe to. Trust doesn't just come from what you say. It comes from your consistency, your actions, and your ability to create a space where she feels seen and understood, even when she's not speaking. This is where so many men go wrong. They mistake her silence for rejection or disinterest, when in reality, it's an invitation to be the steady presence she needs to feel safe. Another important thing to consider is that her silence often comes from a place of emotional exhaustion. The emotional labor of hiding feelings, holding everything inside, can be draining. She may care for you so deeply, but the fear of being too much, of being rejected, or of not being understood prevents her from speaking. Over time, that silence becomes a coping mechanism, a way to deal with the overwhelm of her own emotions. She may even tell herself that staying silent is the best way to protect her heart. You might feel frustrated or confused by her quietness, but instead of demanding answers, try to focus on what you can control, your own emotional steadiness. Become the rock in her storm. Show her through your actions that you're there for her, without expecting her to verbalize her feelings right away. Be patient and give her the space to come forward when she's ready. This will make all the difference. Remember, silence can sometimes speak louder than words. When a woman is silent but cares, she is showing you that her feelings are complex and layered. She's not withholding affection. She's trying to figure out how to share something that feels too big to put into words. Her silence is a measure of her emotional intensity, not her lack of interest. And here's the hard truth. If you give her space to be silent, without pushing, without demanding, she may eventually come forward with everything she's been holding back. But it's on her terms. When that moment comes, you'll be amazed at how much you've learned about her, how much deeper your bond will become, and how much more genuine the connection will feel because it was built on trust, patience, and mutual respect. So, if you want to understand a woman who cares but stays silent, learn to embrace the silence. Don't try to fill it. Don't try to force her to speak. Instead, become the safe, patient presence she needs. Only then will she reveal the depth of what's inside. Here's the thing. Silence, when it's carefully observed, can tell you more about her than 1,000 words. A woman who cares deeply but remains silent isn't trying to pull away from you. She's trying to protect herself, and she's testing how safe you really are. She wants to be vulnerable, but she's afraid. She wants to share what's inside, but she's not sure if you'll be able to handle it or if it will push you away. But here's the catch. She's waiting. She's waiting to see if you'll prove you're the kind of man who can read between the lines, who can feel what's unsaid, who can meet her with calm patience and understanding. When a woman stays silent, it's not about ignoring you. It's about quietly asking, can you handle my silence? Can you handle my complexity? Can you be the one I trust with the parts of me I'm too afraid to show? So, how do you respond to this? First, stop making silence about you. The longer you focus on your own frustration with her silence, the more you'll miss the opportunity to understand her. Her quiet isn't a reflection of your worth, it's a reflection of her process. She's working through her own fears, her own vulnerabilities, and it takes time for her to gather the courage to share that part of herself with you. And when she does finally open up, when the silence breaks, it will be because you've shown her that you're strong enough to hold the weight of her words. You've been patient, you've been kind, you've been steady. The truth is, women who hide their feelings in silence are not looking for a man who can fix them or make the silence disappear. They're looking for someone who will stand beside them in it, who will create a space where they don't feel compelled to hide. But there's one more piece to this puzzle. You must lead with emotional maturity. This means being able to hold space for her without losing your own emotional balance. It means not reacting defensively or pushing for answers when she's not ready. It means learning how to let her take the time she needs to work through her emotions, knowing that she's not pulling away from you, but rather pulling inward to heal and process. And here's what happens when you get this right. The more you allow her to stay silent without feeling pressured, the more you'll see her begin to trust you. Eventually, she'll start opening up, piece by piece, until the silence no longer has the weight it once did. And when that happens, you'll realize that the silence was never about you. It was about her learning to trust, and you being the safe space she needed. Now, do you understand what I mean? A woman who cares but stays silent isn't rejecting you. She's hiding her feelings out of fear of being hurt, fear of being vulnerable, fear of being too much. But if you can be patient, if you can remain calm in the face of her silence, you'll not only earn her trust, but you'll gain a deeper understanding of her than anyone else ever could. So, as you move forward, remember this. Silence isn't the enemy, it's the space where real connection begins. When both people are willing to wait, listen, and let the truth unfold in its own time. Keep this in mind, and you'll find that the woman who stays silent will eventually speak. And when she does, her words will mean more than you could have ever imagined.